A group called the Voter Integrity Fund is cold calling people across the country to determine whether or not they actually requested absentee ballots and sent them back in. And sure enough, they have already found several irregularities and evidence of voter fraud. I didn't say proof of voter fraud, just evidence. We can play the whole semantic argument thing, but there's no other way to put it. There are people who have registered new addresses who voted absentee in other states. Some of these people who may have voted twice. That is evidence, could be circumstantial, might not prove intentional voter fraud, but it's there. Well, now we actually have a bigger story. There is a man named Nashan Garrett who appeared on the Laura Ingraham program, and he said someone voted for him in Arizona. He's not there. He's in Tennessee training for the Olympics. This is a wrestler training for the Olympics saying, I did not vote. You see, the Voter Integrity Fund called him. They cold called him saying, did you vote? And he said, wait a minute. He did not. This is evidence. What do? We must investigate. Does it mean they're going to overturn the election results? No. And Karl Rove says it's not going to happen. But what's crazy to me is the left keeps saying several things. The left and the mainstream media. For one, Joe Biden won. Okay, we haven't even gone through the constitutional process of determining the winner. I understand traditionally just whatever the media says, but it's very strange the media is putting on a narrative where they're like, every day that Joe Biden doesn't get access is a national security risk. Well, the Constitution says the Electoral College votes on the 12th of December. So we're going to wait until then, I guess. It's ridiculous. They're also saying no evidence of widespread voter fraud. Okay, well, whatever. There's evidence of voter fraud. I'm going to show it to you. We've already seen sworn affidavits. It doesn't mean it's proof. It doesn't mean we've proven beyond a reasonable doubt. It means we have a bunch of evidence. Now we say, okay, we got some witness statements. We've got this weird instance where a dude clearly says he didn't vote. Maybe he's lying. Awesome. Let's investigate and figure out if a guy went on national television lying in an effort to boost President Trump, right? Wouldn't the Democrats love to prove this guy went on TV and lied in order to make it look like Trump was right? That would be real bad for Trump, wouldn't it? Great. That's why we have to investigate. The other big issue I take with what the left is saying and the media and the Democrats is how we shouldn't investigate these things because they wouldn't change the results anyway. You mean to tell me we've got tens of thousands of instances of potential fraud and you're saying, yeah, well, it's not systemic. It's not going to change the results. So ignore it. No, if people committed crimes, then investigate it. So all these people who tried to vote twice or whatever, well, there you go. Now we're going to dig in, because even if this ends up with a President Joe Biden, wouldn't we all be happier knowing that our elections have more security and integrity? How could we go 4 years with the Democrats screaming about interference and election security and now be like, no, stop looking? It's because it's about power. Look, I think the Republicans and the right are going after these instances and seeking these things out where they're normally ignored and probably happen often because it's a path to power, to winning. And I can respect it. The Democrats are rejecting it. I get it. They want power. I don't want the Democrats to win. And I understand why the Democrats want to win. But you know what? I care about what is practical, logical, reasonable, and fair. And that means even if it turns out this integrity project, they find only minor instances and we get to the bottom of them, but doesn't change the results, it's still a good thing. This project is actually quite incredible. They are calling people across the country and they found some stuff. They got this, a few weird instances. So here's what I'll do. Let me show you what's going on with this project, what they're all about. And then I want to show you CNN's response as they lie to people claiming there's no evidence of fraud and it's all just a fictional reality. But first, I'll show you the actual reality and then show you why, in fact, CNN is the fake news reality. Before we get started, head over to timcast.com/donate if you'd like to support my work. There are many ways you can give, but the best thing you can do is share this video for all of the reasons I just said. Let's get to the bottom of this once and for all, right? Because I tell you this, especially for those on the left and the Democrats who, for some reason, I guess you still watch my stuff, but thank you if you do. Don't you want to know about potential instances of fraud so that should it come to a point where a Republican uses these tactics, you know how to spot them? Sure. And it might not even change the results. It might just be like, there, look, we gave you your audit. Republicans, you should accept the results now. It'll give you a strong argument. So yes, people should know about this. Please, if you think it's important, you think I do a good job, please share this video. And don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Here's the story from the Inquirer. Pro-Trump voter integrity group that is calling Pennsylvania voters has ties to the White House. Now, to be honest, this is actually one of the most comprehensive articles I could find on the Voter Integrity Fund, and they're trying to poison the well. Basically saying it's pro-Trump and it's tied to the White House. Okay. And if the Democrats uncover fraud, I would like them to be, talked about as well. There have been instances where, the Democrats have this video coming out where a woman on the street admits she voted twice for Trump in 2016 and got caught and got arrested. Yeah, voter fraud is bad. I'm glad she did. By all means, bring up all of the news in the world. The only issue is right now, the Democrats, for some reason, seem to be on the other side of this. Let me be fair. When the Russiagate thing was going on, I was on board. I said, okay, let's go for it. Let's see what we discover. I'm not a psychic. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what Trump did. And I said, if we got a threat to our security, we'll investigate. Here we are with the Republicans. I'm saying the exact same thing. So please, this isn't about partisanship. It's about making sure the right person gets elected. The Inquirer says, election officials across the U.S. say they have found no evidence of widespread voter fraud that would affect the outcome of the presidential election. And I think that's likely, because even the stuff we found, the potential voter fraud and the evidence of fraud, doesn't necessarily mean it's systemic and going to actually overturn the results. I think it just, these things happen, but let's check, right? They say, but a new group supporting Donald Trump is cold calling thousands of people in Pennsylvania and elsewhere and asking them if they voted in an apparent attempt to find instances of misconduct. The effort has ties directly to the White House, including a controversial senior advisor there, and is feeding information to the Trump campaign's legal team. That's correct. The Voter Integrity Fund is run by government employees and former Trump campaign staffers who are analyzing voter data in 6 key states, according to founder Matt Brainard, who worked for the Trump campaign's data team in 2016. Brainard started the new operation last week after a tweet about his access to the publicly available data prompted people to offer donations to fund an investigation into any irregularities. As of Thursday, Brainard said 9 people, including 5 former Trump campaign staffers and a few White House staff volunteers, are working on the initiative at the Washington area headquarters. One of the White House staffers is Camilo Sandoval, a senior advisor to Trump, who was recently named Federal Chief Information Security Officer, a position in the Office of Management and Budget. In 2015 and 16, I assembled this data for then candidate Trump. I believe our work was pivotal to the eventual outcome. And now we're together again for one more fight, working to ensure the integrity of the election, from Matt Brainard. They say, they go on to explain who these people are because they're trying to let you know these people don't like Joe Biden. The Voter Integrity Fund has purchased data on millions of voters from 6 states: Pennsylvania, Georgia, Wisconsin, Michigan, Arizona, and Nevada, and is cross-referencing names of people who voted absentee or by mail with the National Address Change Registry and the Social Security Death Registry, Brainard said. They are focusing on identifying people who requested a mail-in ballot but were not marked as having returned it, as well as first-time voters in areas of high turnout, like Philadelphia. Brainard said they are also trying to find people who moved to adjacent states to see if they voted in both places. The group has contracted 3 call centers located in Iowa, Nevada, and Virginia, where more than 100 paid operators will call voters. He said his team hopes to contact about 1.5 million people. They're asking 3 questions. Did a person with your name vote? Did you request a mail-in ballot? Did you return a mail-in ballot? We have not made any claims that voter fraud has happened. We are just gathering evidence, Brainard said in a phone interview Thursday. If we actually find there are no indicators of voter fraud, we will put that out. The data speaks for itself. They go on to mention that Donald Trump is saying fraud across the board. And, Trump is trying to overturn the results. No, they are. Actually, Trump's own lawyer said that they're going to overturn the results in several states. And Sidney Powell said on, I believe Sidney Powell's her name, said on Fox this morning that it would be stupid of these states to certify while they have all of this evidence coming in. My response to that is, by all means, I look forward to seeing the evidence you have. Please put it out, and then I'll report on it when it's available. I'm not just going to assume it's all true. That being said, this organization is claiming that they have all of this evidence. And we have an individual who has now appeared live on Laura Ingraham's program saying he did not vote. This is evidence of voter fraud. Or it could potentially be evidence of someone lying, I guess. But if we take it for what it is, it's evidence that there may be voter fraud. I don't know to what extent, and we're going to have to dig a lot deeper. What you need to understand about the word evidence is that we keep hearing the media say things like without evidence, Trump with no evidence, citing no evidence. What does evidence mean? This is the argument. Okay, fine. Let's play semantics. Evidence is the available body of facts or information indicating whether a belief or proposition is true or valid. Signs or indications of something. Seriously, the word evidence just means signs or indications of something. If a dude says, I didn't vote in Arizona, that is a sign or indication that there may have been fraud. It's that simple. Now that I've gotten you past the semantic argument that I know the left is going to go after, let me show you the clip from Laura Ingraham. Tennessee voter claims his name was used to cast a ballot in Arizona. In this live shot, Nashan Garrett says outright he did not vote by absentee. He could be lying. I have no indication or sign that he is. So I can't say there's evidence he's lying. I do have a sign or indication that this man didn't vote in Arizona, and it's an Olympic. He's training for the Olympics. Okay, he's a not some random dude who just said, "Oh, by the way." No, this is a guy who's apparently a well-known wrestler training for the Olympics. Okay, this is like an all-star athlete saying, "Not me." Please, that is evidence. It's not widespread. But it does need to be looked into. And if you ignore this and all the other claims without going through them in the legal process, you're just going to sow more division. But this man, Nashan Garrett, he is, like I mentioned, training for the Olympics. He has his own Wikipedia page. He's an American collegiate and freestyle wrestler, best known for winning the 133-pound NCAA Division I National Championship in 2016. And there you go. He competed at the 2016 Freestyle Wrestling Olympic Trials, losing a controversial match to Tony Ramos. In the match, Garrett was leading 3-2 when he was hit with a stalling penalty point just seconds before the end of the match, giving Ramos the victory by decision. There you go. That's who he is. He put out a thread talking about voter fraud because he is a man claiming he did not vote, and he wanted to explain what this was. His Twitter thread, by most accounts, does not appear to be overly political, but it does appear like he takes voter fraud very seriously, which is not a Democrat position. Nahshon said, he said, I am not concluding that there is widespread systematic voter fraud in this thread. He says, the beginning of wisdom, according to ancient writers, is understanding or terms. What is voter fraud? Voter fraud is the illegal behavior of individual voters, clear, cut, and simple. It takes many forms. Duplicate voting, when someone impersonates another voter to vote. Vote selling, a non-citizen voting. 4, a felon voting an election before they have a right to do so, an absurd restriction. That's actually a left position. Voting in a district where the voter does not or no longer lives. Side note, I actually kind of agree about the felon thing. I know there's been a lot of controversy, like Bloomberg paying off fines, but if you pay your debt to society, you should be allowed to re-enter society and vote, as far as I can tell. But anyway, long story short, what we're seeing now from Matt Brainerd of the Vote Integrity Project is that there are real instances where fraud may have occurred. So let me just put it very simply. Signs and indicators, that's what evidence is. And we have some. Matt Brainerd says, we've discovered the following number of early absentee voters who filed out-of-state NCOA move notices, suggesting they may have cast illegal ballots due to no longer meeting residency requirements. Over 7,000 in Pennsylvania, over 17,000 in Georgia, 5,000 in Nevada, 1,600 in Michigan, over 6,000 in Wisconsin, over 5,000 in Arizona. He says, we are working to confirm correct residency for these voters and sharing our data with the campaign's legal team in several states. We are confident we've identified these early absentee double voters after analyzing just a few adjacent states. 631 in PA, not including New York, and Nevada, 987. We are sharing this data with the campaign's legal team, in addition to expanding this double voter search to fill all 50 states and to election day voting. This requires us to purchase a national voter file. HQ team has a new favorite lunch spot. Please help us with these growing expenses. He then links to their fundraising website. It may be that they've uncovered a lot of evidence of people voting illegally. Many people may have moved because of COVID or because of the riots, but then voted by absentee where they used to live. You can't do that. Now, would a court really throw these out? Maybe. When you change your address, you no longer live there. And then you go and vote there, you're altering that state's elections when you don't live there. That's not cool. But I wonder if they might say, look, many of these people didn't actually move. We'll see what it comes down to. I don't know if the courts are actually going to want to get involved and actually overturn an election. Karl Rove seems to think that will not happen. But looking at this information is kind of worrisome. The people who are said to have voted after changing their address maybe didn't vote at all. This Nahshon Garrett fella, he says he voted in Tennessee because he moved there and he's been training for the Olympics. But somebody voted in his name in Arizona. So he did not double vote. Someone else voted for him. There are many ways. There are many scenarios that people on the right are bringing up as to how this could have been done. Notably, there's a story, we'll call it a hashtag, Maidengate, where they're saying that many people are discovering that these are women. Votes were cast using their maiden names because the maiden names are still in the registry, even though they now vote with their new name after they got married. There's also the possibility that votes were cast after people moved, thinking, there's another opportunity to get people who are registered to vote but are no longer there to have voted. These people who voted by absentee very well may not even realize they voted. And thus, Matt Braynard and his organization are cold calling people to figure it out. And that's how they found this guy, Nashan Garrett. We'll see ultimately how all of this plays out. Matt says the data for the final phone-based program has been shipped to our call centers. This is for the unreturned ABS program, which cover Michigan, Wisconsin, and Arizona. The unreturned program for GA and PA is complete and is non-applicable to Nevada. The program targets those marked as receiving ABS ballots, but not returning them. We ask whether or not they requested the ballot. Red flag if no. And if yes, did they mail them back in? Red flag if yes. This program is expected to complete Tuesday night. Our national voter file and specialized extract based on that file for use in identifying double voters and potential residency requirements violators is being processed by the vendor overnight and will arrive for analysis this morning, Sunday. In Wisconsin, we are expanding our analysis to the extremely anomalous explosion in indefinite confinement absentee requests that bypass the need for identification. Core HQ staff have committed to another week of volunteering. HQ call center gearing up for final week to reconfirm red flags and collect additional declarations. Expecting final analysis presentation late next week. Keep the faith. Sure. Okay. Absolutely. This is one of the most significant efforts to uncover widespread voter fraud. And still, the numbers being presented don't necessarily give us enough information to suggest it exists. And I don't think Matt or anyone is actually asserting that because they're being very, very careful, and rightly so. Listen, I want to make sure this is clear. If we do find fraud, and it seems that there have been several instances sworn by witnesses, particularly poll watchers who've signed sworn affidavits, or USPS postal workers, it doesn't mean widespread. The people working on this, listen, I'm going to put it this way. I get a lot of people saying Tim won't go to bat for Trump and say it's fraud and everyone knows it. And people are putting all these claims about trusting the plan and stuff like that. You are not helping. OK, I'll tell you what helps. The best thing being done right now, the lawsuits and what Matt Braynard is doing. This helps. In the end, no matter what ends up happening, the things that Matt Braynard and his team will find will help make our elections more secure. If the left truly believes Biden won and it's over, then they should just accept that there's going to be an audit to make sure. Wouldn't that be great for healing and uniting? I wonder why they don't want it. Well, I'll tell you what. Brian Stelter says this is not reality. CNN Stelter sounds alarm over Newsmax OAN boost amid Trump's baseless election attacks. Baseless. You can't say that. You really, really can't. You can say that Trump exaggerates or he's extreme or he's advocating for Trump. And we'll have to dig in, but baseless is too broad. You can say unproven, but even then, I would try to avoid that because it implies what he's saying is absolutely false when we're not at that point yet. I understand it's really hard to prove a negative, but we are working through debunking claims, verifying claims, and investigating potential fraud, as we should be doing. Well, Brian Stelter doesn't like the fact that Newsmax, this is crazy, one of their hosts actually got over 1 million viewers in the ratings. That is nuts. Fox News taking a huge dip in their ratings because people don't want to watch because Fox News is acting like there's no evidence, and they keep saying it, and it's not true. That's what's crazy to me. Now, certainly, I've had people saying, Tim, you're just as bad as Fox News. There's realism, and there's idealism, and there's wishful thinking. I am quite a bit of a realist. I need to see the evidence. Now, I've seen the sworn affidavits. I've seen what Matt Brainerd has produced. But most importantly, I have seen Nashan Garrett come out and say, I did not vote. Okay, we got one. Let's look into this, because that came from from Brainerd's research, in which case it seems likely that he's actually digging things up, and it's working. It's credible. Maybe it stops only a handful of people. Wouldn't you be happy to find that out? But for Brian Stelter to say it's not reality when we literally have a dude on the record on Fox saying, hey, I didn't vote. Isn't that funny? Brian, did you even watch the segment? Are you calling Nahshon a liar? He might be lying, but I'm not going to call him a liar. I don't know. I have no signs or indications that he's lying. In fact, why would he risk everything for this? I got no evidence to say he would. Media reports. In a latest reliable sources monologue, CNN's Brian Stelter warned of a probable rise in disinformation. Yeah, coming from him, maybe. He said, I don't want to call it an alternative reality anymore because it's not reality. There is nothing real about this. But in this fictional parallel universe, the election was rigged. It was stolen out from under Trump, and Trump was the rightful winner. This is the new birtherism. We are going to be reckoning with the consequences of these lies for years. Did you look in a mirror, Brian? Because I seem to remember talking about Russiagate and entertaining the possibility when you said Trump had colluded with Russia. Yeah, pot, meet kettle. This is what CNN does. If only they would just be honest about it. Coming out right now and saying Joe Biden won. No, Joe Biden is the projected winner. The certification hasn't happened yet. I personally think it's going to be a Joe Biden presidency, and forgive me for being a realist. But even if you do think there was a rigging and all stuff happened, is Trump going to succeed against the so-called deep state? I don't know, but it really does just seem probable it will be a Joe Biden presidency. I don't know what else to say to that. Maybe I'm wrong. But either way, I want this stuff to be investigated, and there is stuff to investigate. Brian Stelter, however, doesn't want you to know this. He doesn't want you to watch this stuff or read this. That's why he's criticizing other networks. That's why he's saying, don't go to Newsmax or One America News. It's misinformation. In fact, he's also angry that people are going to Parler, saying it's a threat to our democracy. Oh, no, you can't control what people think anymore, and they're allowed to think whatever they want? Yeah, well, too bad. Welcome to individual liberty. No one made you the arbiter of truth. You're just some guy on TV, and I'm just some guy on the internet. And I fully expect a ton of people to tell me I'm wrong and stupid all day, every day. And you know what? Good. I see people posting all the time on Twitter how dumb I am, and I'm like, wonderful. I'm not always right. I'm not perfect, and you certainly need to watch other people and get their assessment on these things. In fact, I encourage you to watch Brian Stelter, see what he has to say. Just don't fall for his tricks when he says, don't watch these other programs. That's the trick. You want to. You want to watch it all. You want to fact check these things, investigate for yourself. I'll tell you what really is a threat to our democracy. A threat to our democracy is the likes of Brian Stelter, acting like there's no evidence, which is an outright lie. There's no definitive proof just yet. The mathematical anomalies that have come out so far, it's circumstantial. And it's light circumstantial. It suggests maybe there's something there. We see smoke. A dude saying that he didn't vote on TV and someone voted in his name, that's fire. That's literally the fire. That's literally like, whoa, this dude is straight out saying it. Okay, let's get him under oath, because if he's lying, we better find out, right? But he's not the only one who's come out and said things like this. We've had some woman claim that her dead son was on the voter rolls and had voted. It's all being disputed because everyone's trying to fight over reality. The left is trying to convince you of what is true, and so is the right. The only problem, Well, reality, at least for now, has a right-wing bias. Yeah. Remember that famous line from Colbert, reality has a liberal bias? That was a long time ago. As of right now, the mainstream news outlets are just pumping out garbage and lying about everything. And you know what? Fox is too. Fox News conflated a 14th Amendment argument with a fraud argument. And the media keeps doing this thing where they're like, in court, Trump's team actually straight up said there was no evidence of fraud. In one lawsuit, referring specifically to improperly filled out ballots. That's the lie. The reality is Trump has a bunch of lawsuits. I think it's an extreme long shot. I don't know if he's going to win. I think he probably won't. That's just me. Get mad at me for thinking that. But man, is the media lying about all of this. Just all day, every day. At least Fox News is kind of coming around. Laura Ingraham is putting out, the statement from Nahshon. Well, over at the Wall Street Journal opinion from Karl Rove, this election result won't be overturned. Recounts occasionally change margins in the hundreds, never in the tens of thousands. Look, Alan Dershowitz thinks that Trump is going to prevail in his Pennsylvania lawsuit, but it might not be enough. Several legal scholars have said Trump would have to pull off 3 Hail Marys simultaneously to get a win in this regard. I want him to win. I do. And I want the Republican senators to win. I do. Because the Democrats have gone insane, completely insane. But I'm a realist. And some people only now are they like, Tim says he will laugh if Joe Biden wins, but people are dying. They said that about me when I laughed when Trump won. The left was like, Tim is laughing as people are dying. When people thought that Trump really was on track to win, and I said, look, if Joe Biden ends up winning, I'm going to laugh about it. I'm not laughing because it's funny that what he's going to do. I'm laughing because you have to learn to move on and strategize and figure out how to solve your problems. Sometimes you don't win. And if at first you don't succeed, try again. Succeed. Joe Biden winning is not the end of the world for me. It's bad in a lot of ways, and not a fan. I think he's a crony warmonger who's already bringing on a bunch of really awful people, but sure. I think there's strange anomalies. I think there are strange connections. I think there are sworn statements and claims of outright voter fraud that needs to be investigated, and all of that is evidence. It's not proof. You see, there's a difference. But for the media to lie over and over again, that's what really gets me. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep doing exactly as I do when I cover these stories. I'm assuming diehard Trump supporters will continue to be mad at me, and the left will be mad at me as well. The good thing is, though, I got both the left and right calling me a grifter, so I must be doing something right or completely wrong. Sure, I'll call it like I see it. In the end, I think, again, it's going to go to Joe Biden. But I want to see Trump fight to the bitter end. I want to see him take these lawsuits as he's legally entitled to do. And I want to know what's going on with these weird claims. More importantly, what Brainerd is doing and his crew with the Voter Integrity Fund is one of the best things I've seen in a long time. I'd love to see the data after the fact. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 6 p.m. over at youtube.com/TimCastNews, my other channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you all then.